I am recording now.
All right.
Welcome back to part 2, everyone, of our podcast finale.
Yeah, my laptop is just about to die, so we just survived
Hooray.
getting through that thing.
What you got there, Drew?
Oh, my champagne. I say mine because I'm not going to share it. Sorry. I'm trying. It's a fancier champagne, so you gotta. Unfortunately, I just cut my fucking nails, so this is gonna be like it might be until the end of the podcast. Until the end of the whole thing. We'll be done forever. But all right, there. I'm seeing the cork.
Yep.
The malevolent cork.
I was going to say, how malevolent is that?
Not too malevolent. It's not forcing me into electro indie pop, so that's always a plus. That's my first real experience there, doing
The recording
long
stuff.
form audio. I think I'd argue it went all right. Oh, I don't think I needed to rip it that much.
No, you didn't.
Oops. I just wanted to make sure I was doing it right.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Have you opened one of these before?
oh, plenty of times.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm gonna make sure the mic can hear the pop though, because that'll be very important. Oh, and I mean, if this spills all over me, it's better than pickle juice. So, here's to whistle while you dork. Oh, you don't want to hear it in the microphone?
If it makes a sound like a gunshot, like the first time I did the champagne thing, I don't want to blow my eardrums out.
Oh, what could possibly happen?
Woo! That was much better. No, I did it.
Well, we say that, but I didn't hear it.
The one time I opened the champagne bottle was with dinner with friends, and just bang, cork shot right into the ceiling, and then came right back down.
I believe this was discussed on the podcast.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the context was, but I think, yeah, this is weird. This is dork related. There's your champagne.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I will pour mine. Oh my god, I'm very excited that we have champagne. It's so much better than fucking pickles.
Drowns out the taste of the pickles.
Is it good?
It's fantastic.
Oh my god.
Cheers to a good run.
We are
Cling.
the best of dorks. May we whistle forevermore. I fucking spilt it immediately.
Oh no, now the pickle juice. Oh.
I guess we are the best of dorks. Oh god, that hits the spot. Oh. Oh my god. I'm ready to go deep.
Okay.
Welcome to part 2 of our very long finale. I'm glad you're still with this. This is going to be the discussion portion.
Yes.
Is the whole episode, which will be fun. And essentially, I guess we both kind of landed on this idea, but I wanted to end it on kind of a personal note. And I think it might have been you that suggested, why don't we talk about how we've progressed from the beginning of the podcast to the end of the podcast?
As well as within the past decade or so.
Yeah. And I just like the idea of ending on just kind of something reflective like that. So that seemed to be a pretty fitting way to end things. So, yeah, and, instead of a disappointing start, we'll have kind of a satisfying end.
Finish, yes.
Or finish. Oh, shit, which one should it be?
I say finish.
But, I mean...
When I think finish goes more with start.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Beginning, end, start, finish.
I mean, clearly you're the victor because, title card is kind of proclaiming so.
Okay.
Or just the title, depending on where you are experiencing this. But, yes. Essentially, I guess some background. Why are we here? Why are we doing Whistle While You Dork?
We're here because in the summer of 2017, you were at my place. My family was gone for some reason, and we were drinking, and we were having one of our many, many in-depth person-to-person conversations. And I knew you had done a podcast before, and like I had an idea of something like this beforehand, but then to just really, like, I really built up the confidence then. It was just like, we should do what we're doing, maybe add some funny jokes a little more so, and then just record ourselves, as it were. It would be so easy. It'd be so easy. How could we not?
Yeah. And it wasn't something that I had been thinking about, really. I mean, I have a lot of projects in my queue, I suppose. But I'm surprised I didn't say no. I really am.
I'm surprised too.
It's not because I'm thinking fuck Brandon, but it
would have been fair as well.
I tend to pick projects that I'm really excited about and that I feel I'm really going to be challenged by. And this was one of the only projects I committed to that I never really felt challenged by. It just felt purely enjoyable. And I think this podcast, more so than any other audio projects that I've done, is definitely the most relaxed, I would say. There's no editing, but there's also no chaos when things go wrong for the most part. It's just, we let it be. The dripping annoys the shit out of me. It's not really a dripping. It's just the illusion of dripping, but it's still a problem with pipes. But instead of fucking having a mental breakdown, I just get angry and move on.
Progress.
Well, I guess if this were more professional and I was trying to do it in one take, then yes, I would maybe a mental breakdown. Who knows? But I'm trying to remember why I even said yes to it. I mean, I definitely think just because we have a really good relationship, and yeah, you seemed really interested in it, and I think I wanted to take the ride with you. But I also think I was interested in just trying to do things for fun. And I think that's what this sounded like. And yeah, we do have really good conversations.
Yeah.
I mean, I tend to think that I have great conversations with all of my friends because I won't be friends with someone unless they're a good talker. But I do particularly like our conversations, and I think it was a good idea. Not something I was ever... Again, not something I was challenged by, not something I had ever dreamed of necessarily, but something that I thought, why not? I think this will be a good time. And I've never really had a bad time. Editing has never really been difficult because it barely happens. And it's just been a lot of fun. So I guess the question is, why are we not going to do it anymore?
I think it's just we've, exhausted at least the major things that we've wanted to talk about, and it's a lot of time has passed since we've started. We haven't been producing it as consistently as when we started, and it's just time for us to move on to bigger things, which isn't to say this show isn't going to stop forever, but at least for now it seems appropriate given where we are in our careers and the kind of at least creative artistic endeavors we want to pursue, either with work or, in my case, I guess outside of work. It just more time to devote it to that. It's like the way I see it is like we, no one likes things to end. But if you have some agency in the direction of where you take a project, and part of that agency includes deciding when it is at least discontinued, then it's not so bad as opposed to if it were, say, canceled as the result of like something really bad or a falling out or the like.
Yeah. That. It's really interesting because for me, I think a lot about something going on indefinitely versus something having a good ending. And I'm someone that hates the idea of endings.
Yeah.
I was very upset when I first discovered Adventure Time in like 2011. I love the show.
Mhm.
It's my favorite show.
Yeah.
But because I loved it so much, I was very upset because I was thinking this will have to end soon and then I'll be sad. And that's what happened. And
Well, not soon. I mean, 8 years later.
yeah, but I was upset because I never wanted it to end.
Yeah.
Ever. I wanted to die while it was still a thing. Also, I don't want to die. I don't want that to end either. I want to live in a world I clearly don't live in, which, I mean, don't we all? But I also acknowledge that a great ending is very satisfying. A satisfying finish, if you were.
Yeah.
So I really jump back and forth between which one I prefer. But I agree that it felt right to end this for a few reasons. One, basically the way it would exist, we started off and we were able to make it a weekly thing, but we both knew that wouldn't work out with our schedules, and now it's very occasional. And I don't think it's erroneous really to continue to run it on a very random basis, essentially just to get out an episode when we feel like it. I think that's fine, but I agree that I feel we've really exhausted a lot of what we did want to talk about. We've run through a lot of topics, and I can't think of too many more. If we got more specific and a little more creative, I definitely think we might be able to bust out maybe a second season if you want to faction it off in that way.
We'll just watch, like, this episode will end, and then it'll be like, all these topics that just come rushing out of the dam.
That's how it's going to work, right?
well.
But
Yep.
I think for me,
We can still talk about them, we just won't record ourselves.
yeah, the big impetus is that I did want to do things that were just for fun, for sure. But I think I have more of an awareness of my limited amount of time. And while I am interested in having fun, I think it's inevitable when I get around to having fun that these projects wind up becoming very consuming and big. And I couldn't help but, because we're doing Whistle While You Dork, I would try to keep focusing on, what episodes are we going to do and when are we going to get things out? And basically, I'm not sure I can let it just be fun. Because I think some of the fun for me is kind of diving into it and taking it a little seriously and trying to make it professional. And I think by its nature, Whistle While You Dork isn't supposed to be something like that. And I find myself, now that I realize, I'm 25, I want to do things before I die, wanting to really jump into some of these projects I've really been wanting to do. And I acknowledge that with Whistle While You Dork on my plate, that'll prevent me from doing other things that I've been meaning to get to. So it does feel right in terms of that. And even though it's fun and I do enjoy it, I think its casual nature is no longer as appealing to me as it used to be. I think that if I were going to let myself just have fun, and I would really want to just have fun, I think I'd want to feel like it's resulting in a product that's a little more spectacular, I guess we'll say. I personally, I enjoy listening to these podcasts, but I also acknowledge there are probably other ways to have fun that would result in something even more quality. I mean, I can definitely feel the problems within this podcast, and we're relaxed here, especially with the champagne. So it's fine. We let it be, but I think those are the two main impetuses for me, is that I feel like it's kind of run its course, but I also feel like just the nature of this podcast is a little too casual to be sustainable for my hungry mindset.
Yeah, and I feel the same way.
And it's a bummer that it has to end, because I like the idea of it going on indefinitely, and I feel like it's been a fun thing for us to do as friends.
I agree.
That is probably the most heartbreaking thing about it. I hate that it's ending in the first place because I hate ends unless it's like torture. I'm like, hooray, I'm not being waterboarded anymore. That's a great end. But
It's a very satisfying end.
yes. But it has been a thing that we've been able to do for fun. And yeah, it makes sense in a lot of ways to end this, but I am a little bummed out. And I hope we find another way to have fun that feels a little more productive, I guess.
Yeah.
Because this was good, but I don't want to transition from our friendship having this fun creative outlet to suddenly we kind of aren't doing anything creative anymore.
Yeah.
And we just actually yesterday tried out stand-up together.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't personally
Well, wait a second. Who tried stand-up?
I wanted to scope out a stand-up place to see if I felt comfortable performing there eventually. And Brandon was more willing to jump right the fuck in than I was.
Yep.
But we went together and I brought it up with a couple of my other friends and some of them seem interested in maybe making it a regular thing.
Nice.
So, I mean, that's a possibility for a creative thing we can do together.
I'm
and
all for that, yeah.
I mean, I like to think there are other outlets. I mean, I know you and a friend were discussing basically a history podcast where you just explain history to me who does not know much history, and I'd go, what?
Yeah. Yeah. That is an idea, but yeah, we'll need a third mic for that.
Yes. Well, I feel like our circumstances have changed where you might be able to arrange for a bit more of a budget. But
maybe.
yeah, it depends. But yeah, that's the thing I'm the most uneasy about is how we fill the void that this podcast was filling, and I feel confident we'll come up with something.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in life something goes away and there's nothing to fill the void, and I fucking hate it. Like, we were both in drama club in high school, and it was fantastic, and we loved it, and it changed my life, and I was panicking the entire fucking time, as I always do, and I'm learning a lot about myself the more I talk, the more I live. I like...
Wait, panicking the whole time in high school, or...?
I panic all the time when I really like something because I'm terrified it'll end. As soon as I discovered how amazing Drama Club was, the first show we were doing freshman year, I freaked out knowing, shit, it'll end when I am a senior.
Yeah.
And then it did, and it was upsetting, and I was right. The exact thing I was terrified of was terrifying. And I've always been like that as a kid, constantly. I would see a great movie, and I would mourn it afterward, walking away from the theater going, I won't be able to have that experience again of seeing it for the first time. I'd get really upset on family vacations because I'm like, day 3 out of 10, and it's like, you're on vacation for 10 days, you privileged fuck. But I'd be counting it down the whole time because I hate the idea of being unhappy, and I'm constantly worrying about it. And this is reminding me of my therapy session from a couple days ago. I'm finally attempting to deal with it, and I fear that there's literally nothing that can be done about it. So far, 4 sessions of therapy haven't seemed to procure a tremendous amount of results, but we'll see.
In the first part, I mentioned I'm not devoid of worrying, but I worry about less things than I did, even within the past year, and I don't know quite what it's been. I don't know if I'm just less concerned with either what people think or about things in general. I really can't explain what it is, but just I think it might have just been telling myself this thing doesn't matter. Worrying doesn't help. Since it's not helping, you can't do it. And if something is either not helping or doing the opposite, hurting, then it's a behavior that, should try to be at least put in place, not necessarily like done away with entirely. So yeah, like I have, family members I know that aren't going to be with me for a while. I am always scared of what the future will hold because I just know, despite my planning and careful saving and scoping out and going through every hypothetical, which I run every night, like before I go to bed, like I know there's always some variable, some hidden figure that like I haven't fully accounted for, and that there's no way I can possibly plan for something. Like even yesterday, something got dropped on me, and it was out of the blue, total surprise, couldn't plan for it, and part of how I am, at least mentally, is like I don't like if I have in a sense of what my schedule is going to be like. I don't like changes in it that are unexpected.
Yeah.
So that was at least a little jarring, but again, positive behaviors, got through it. But things got relatively complicated really quickly, and which, just led to me not being able to take it. So still not quite all there. Like you can plan for every scenario, and yet there will always be one that ruins it, at
Yeah.
least in some way.
I've almost had an opposite trajectory in that one of my resolutions for this year, 2019, was to start using a calendar and planning things. Now, it's not like I never scheduled things, really, but the point of the calendar was I had a big trouble with time management. Mostly in that I just didn't think about how long things would take. And I'd tell myself, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. But when you put everything in a calendar, you realize what you actually have time for.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's just to get you to do the thought process of how much time do you actually have to do that math. And it's been really depressing, but also really helpful for actually getting things done. Because, I'll realize, like, fuck, I'm, like, really limited in what I can pull off in a week. But at the same time, I feel I can schedule things and then I can look at it and go, I can reasonably accomplish all this. So you kind of go into the week with a sense of purpose and confidence, which is nice. But yeah, as you were saying, random shit happens and you can't schedule, okay, at 7:00, random shit. So it's tough. It's really tough. I don't even have tomorrow scheduled. I don't know what's going to happen. I have this in the calendar until 3 a.m. I said we'd be going from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. And it is 12:10 as we speak. So I'd say we're roughly on schedule.
We're pretty much on schedule.
But yeah, I guess we can. I guess we've covered why we started it, why we're ending it. And I'm sure we're going to tap into at some point how we liked it. But I'm curious to know for now, just from the time we started it to exactly right now, how have we progressed or devolved?
Or gotten worse? I think I don't know that I've ever regressed year to year. I know that might seem arrogant to say, but bear in mind, I also think.
Yes, I'm on glass too for people that can hear that.
Refill me too, please.
Oh, cool.
I think from year to year, I improve better socially, mentally, not really physically. That I have regressed physically. Since high school, I've definitely regressed physically.
Haven't we all?
Well, that's the thing, is like I regressed physically in middle school and then into freshman year, and then I began rowing crew sophomore year after the show was done, and that got me fit somehow magically. And then I stopped in college. But every year to year I progress ever so slightly, so it's kind of a logarithmic thing, and hopefully I'll approach the best me eventually as the curve gets higher and higher asymptotically, but who knows, honestly. But since starting, I'd say I worry less about what certain people think. Not zero worry, but less. I've learned to know that it's okay to say I'm not cool with certain things, that it's okay to essentially stick up for my comfort, because I'm always trying to, you know, be, you know, a man for others, but it's difficult to do that sometimes if you take no room for yourself. You may end up, in fact, not doing the other person a disservice if you can't properly, take care of your own self-worth and feelings and all that. And I'd say I learned, well, it'd be one thing if like things hadn't worked out the way they did, but I'm super lucky that they did in fact work out. But at the same time, when things were not working out, from graduating from graduate school to starting my job, um, like it was the first time I had to be faced with massive amounts of ennui as well as potentially failure. I was already staring failure right in the face even when we started the podcast back in summer 2017.
Yeah.
But yeah, I, dealt with it. I said, this sucks. I made the most of it and I followed through, and here I am.
I mean, that's great. And if you want to, I mean, you don't have to, but get into specifics of, you talked about how you're doing emotionally, mentally, but just in terms of raw facts, like you had big things happen between 2017 and now.
I did. I was dating someone in the summer of 2017. Things did devolve, or had been devolving, over a period of time. We broke up briefly in that summer, and then we sort of got back together again very shortly after that. Tried to make things better. Things didn't go well the following winter, I suppose, and we ended up breaking up for real. And I spent most of 2018 sort of alone, and I now have a significant other again at this time, and I think I went through a lot in terms of emotional and how I feel about relationships growth in 2018, and like really finally understanding like what I want out of one, and how I should act. Not only that, because a lot of the reason I think the relationships I've been in have failed are, I mean, maybe the other person would say it's from myriad of circumstances, but I blame myself for why a lot of them go the way they do. Certainly with my most recent relationship, I was in a bad place, facing failure down, and I maybe took it out in a lot of ways, both on myself, in terms of like self-inflicted emotional abuse, as well as the person you're with most of the time, which is your partner, and that's I think that's sort of bled into that by osmosis, and it for the last few weeks of the relationship, it came to a fever pitch where I would cry in front of them and vice versa, and we ended up maybe not being the best fit for each other. So yeah, it ended, and I continued on from there.
Wow. I mean, I knew all of that. I'm not going to act like I was surprised.
You bastard.
I was like reacting on behalf.
Sully, I am bearing my soul out. The least you could do is pay attention.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Of course I get that reference. Challenge, do you know what he was referencing?
Yeah.
a snowball is involved. Technically, a snow cone,
It was a snow cone, yeah.
but well, it was both. But yeah, I mean, I was when I prompted this, I was more referring to the fact that you've like graduated law school and now have a prestigious law position. I mean, I know it's not.
Prestigious?
I know it's not
Don't
that
fucking
prestigious,
flatter me, Drew.
but there are ways in which it is prestigious. So, I mean, that's a big change, though. Like your career is going now,
Finally.
and I mean, you're sustainable. I would imagine.
Barely, yeah.
So, I mean that. And you've rebounded, technically. I mean, you have another girlfriend,
Yeah.
which is great.
I would not call this a rebound, though.
Well, no, I don't mean rebound in like the salacious, casual sense. Like you
Salacious
have
rebound.
you have been able to find love again.
Yes.
Where I am still looking after 2011. It's a problem. That will be a different section. But let's see how I've changed. Have we covered all your changes?
I think the big ones, yeah.
Any fun haircuts besides the one you have now?
No. I've been getting the same haircut for decades now. The one thing that's changed is I've recently gone from a number 2 to a number 1.5.
That's cool. I feel like you're hanging out with the group of people I hang out with a little bit more these days than you might.
Yeah,
used to.
and that's great. Like, you know,
Yeah,
I think I finally am able to like talk to. I finally can text certain people and like they'll respond with quips and jokes and things like that. Or I may not be in the same city as all my friends, but I do know that if I do choose to visit them on whatever weekend, it'll be virtually no problem. I have friends in Boston, in New York. I'm not. I haven't gotten so close with the other first year associates in my firm. They live in Buffalo, but maybe we'll be friends outside of work. It remains to be seen. I need to see more of them for starters. So,
well, let's see. With me, physically, losing weight has been a little difficult, but it is gradually happening.
good. Wish the same could be said for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, and we'll get into why it's tough. But I technically had a big old beard when we started this, and very long hair.
Very long Jesus
so my
hair.
haircut has changed.
Yes.
In terms of my just factoids about my position in life, I was working when we started this off as someone that watched kids, and I genuinely enjoyed my job. I really liked it a lot, but it was not sustainable, I think. I was living at home, and it was getting me through that, but it just wasn't enough money to, like, move out and pay rent, and I knew that. And the job was easy, and it wasn't challenging, and it was fun. And the problem is I was looking at that job at the time, and I was thinking, is this what I want to be doing with my life? I want to be like a big, awesome artist, celebrity, fame boy. Fame doesn't really matter to me. But point is, I wanted to be very successful doing big things. And I was looking at what I was doing, and I was thinking, this is tiny, and I'm not challenging myself. I'm not even trying. And I had always had grand visions of moving to New York City or LA to pursue my big creative ambitions, which I don't feel that's a negative thing to be thinking. Probably a positive thing to be thinking. But essentially, we'll delve into what happened to me mentally. If I could sum up what has happened between when we started and now, unfortunately, it'd probably be disillusion. Because I won't go... I'll try to be as succinct as possible. Succinct? I kind of lived life hoping that everything would work out and running away from negative consequences and unhappy things and just trying to will them away. Sometimes it didn't work, often it did, but things were in my favor because I had not yet reached that point where I felt like this is the age where I have to make things happen. The future still felt distant.
Mhm.
It's kind of the glory of being a child is until a certain age, all your dreams, you can comfortably say, future me will deal with that. So right now I can be happy. Well, I hit that moment in time where it felt like, all right, it's time for future me to deal with it. But the problem is, I was hoping it would all work out. I was hoping that this is how naive I was. I love where I am right now. Honestly, I live at home and I love it
Mhm.
because I don't like the idea of living alone. I've been really happy to be a part of a family, and I love the friends I have in this area, and I love this area. And I was hoping I'm gonna go to New York City and then I'm gonna get in the entertainment industry. And yeah, I'll have to start at the bottom of the ladder, but it'll be fine. I'll get to be in upstate all the time, and it'll be amazing. All right, woohoo! And basically, I realized that things are hard. Um, things can get unhappy, and at a certain point, you can't run from them. And I was living alone. I mean, there were 3 roommates I barely knew,
Mhm.
but I felt very isolated. I felt very far away from everyone, and I no longer felt like I was a part of the family that I loved. I mean, yeah, you're always a part of the family, but I wasn't living there anymore, and I was so unprepared for all of it. And basically, I learned that I can't always run from it, and that bad things are going to happen, even though I really, really, really don't want them to. Yeah, some people are fortunate enough where bad things happen, but they're mostly happy. But I I just know I don't want to deal with any bad things, and I will have to. I mean, my dad is very sick, and I don't like thinking about the fact that he will die from ALS. And I make jokes all the time to try to kind of dark humor in many ways is a way of taking something very terrible and trying to remove it from your life by turning it into something happy. And yes, it can be offensive, but I think there's often a deeper reason behind the darkness than one might think. And I, in many ways, have been trying to make the ALS lighter and not really focus on it, but it he will die and it will destroy my world. And I say that right now, but I am removed from actually experiencing the emotions of it.
Mhm.
Because I'm like, here we are, and what's well, you dork. And there it is. Like, I am trying desperately. I want things to be light. I want things to be happy. I don't want things to be devastating, but sometimes they will be. And I hate it, but it's true. And the only thing I can tell myself is A, like maybe the therapist will help, or B, what I'm telling myself in lieu of therapy,
Mhm. Or medication.
yes, is that I'll be okay. And it's weird because, as a disclaimer, I'm not saying I'm suicidal or that I intend to kill myself. Uh, but it was really interesting because as I was getting really upset and having these revelations of like, I can't just be happy all the time, like bad things could happen. I was just feeling really down and upset. And I was having these thoughts of like, what if things never get better? How am I going to solve this? And it was really strange because I'm thinking of all possible solutions out of desperation. And again, I emphasize I was not and continue to not be thinking I want to kill myself, but I did have the thought like, well, technically speaking, if you're dead, these problems won't exist anymore. And it was really like darkly fascinating to me because I kind of finally was able to get in the headspace of why people don't want to live anymore.
Mhm.
Which, you know, I'll never forget my dad like years ago said like people that kill themselves are like cowards. It's like the most cowardly thing you can do. And
Jesus.
I mean, I get it. Like I think he's his point was to strongly discourage his children from killing themselves. Good on him. I'd say that's good parenting.
I'd also say it comes from a very ignorant point of view about how mental illness works, but okay.
Yes, it was a different time, late 90s.
Okay.
But
you made me think this was like 2010 or something.
oh no. This is like 20 years ago and I still remember it. But yeah, I mean I agree it's cowardly, but I wouldn't necessarily look at that as a negative thing because I can imagine now and understand how things can feel so overwhelming and terrible that you just think I don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
And that is fucking horrifying. But it is something that, you know, I realized, I guess, during my horrific depression.
Yeah.
Where I was like not eating for days on end. I didn't even know that was possible. So that's the, if you're ever stranded on a lifeboat, get very depressed and that'll help you out. But I hate that. I hate that I've discovered that because I was living in a very happy world where, you know, things were going to work themselves out. And now I'm living in a world where, I mean, then again, I've always been anxious and upset. I was just looking through like old Facebook posts from like 2009 and seeing myself like, I'm ugly. I'm like, oh yeah, I've always thought that. So it's like, it's not like I've ever been completely happy, but it's like my path to happiness has become markedly more challenging. And I have moved away from the city. I'm living at home again. It sucks because I have a great excuse. I am taking care of my dad. And pretty much every night I've more or less acted as his night nurse. I have every expectation within the next 3 hours he'll probably call me saying he needs something. And I don't want to share details about him too much without his consent. But it sucks though, because there is a part of me that's like, you're going to have to get out of here eventually. And I mean, some people are lucky enough where they can do it with somebody. Some people are lucky enough where they are totally fine with being alone or they hated being with their family. But right now it's a very unpleasant situation. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I'm trying to find the solution of the least depression. But it's been a lot worse, honestly. Like it's I guess it's a good thing because I feel like I needed to have this like illusion shattered eventually. I've always been very like everything will be fine, and I'm like, oh god. But I mean I see it as two ways. I can make it happy, as I like to say. I can make it as happy as I can, or I can die. Because what else am I gonna do? I die or I'm happy.
You can also just make it.
Make it what?
Exactly.
Oh, like survive.
No, just make it as in make whatever.
Like be depressed all the time?
No, I mean like make it
like achieve things?
Make it blank. No, not like make it like, oh, I've made it. I mean like just if you can't make it happy, then just make it.
But what's the point of just making it if you can't be happy?
The fact that you did something?
Maybe.
That's sort of how I don't know quite. I should really see like a psychologist or something like that because I haven't put my finger on whether I have mild forms of depression, anxiety, or more severe forms of one or the other. But like I've developed, social anxiety from like an early age, and it's gotten worse and better, if that makes any sense, like as the years have gone on. But like there were times when I was young when I felt really dejected, and I wouldn't call myself suicidal that young, but things did really suck, and I just hoped that things would get better because how can they be this worse forever? Turns out for some people it can, and I should count myself extremely fortunate and lucky. Um, there was a recent time when I was relatively like had thoughts of self harm to a very severe degree. And it was a culmination of the anxiety from like thinking I'd failed and other things, and a combination of loneliness, and also doing the thing which I'm afraid of the most, which is like hurting the people who are my friends, and feeling incredibly guilty and just awful about things. And just the confluence of that sort of created, this thing. If on a more humorous note, like Patton Oswalt described it the best, how he's going to the supermarket in the middle of the day. He goes to the frozen food section, he opens it up, and he's checking out the frozen field. And then Toto's Africa starts playing on the PA system. And he said, at that moment, those necessary components, like if I had a gun, that would have been it. And like,
the way blissfully suicidal. Such a great phrase.
Had I not, called someone at that point, I don't know what would have happened. I don't like to think about it, but I got through it. And because I see that as potentially my lowest point, I think I can get through anything. Before then, my lowest point was maybe rather pathetic. And it probably happened in like college over something in retrospect. Like if I could go back and slap myself in the face, I'd say, look, I get that this sucks, but you gotta stop. You gotta stop right now, because you're acting really selfish. So
yeah, I hate that things are tough, because if things are like a little tough but mostly fine, then that's okay.
Oh yeah.
If it's like, oh man, I gotta work a little harder if I'm gonna get ace in Foursquare, it's like fine. But if it's like, I gotta move to LA and be completely separated from everyone I love and start anew and face all the social anxieties I've been putting off forever, I'm like, time to die? Like, it's, oh God.
But if it's that hard, then like,
why do it?
Yeah.
I ask myself that a lot.
That's the thing, is like, if that truly is like going down with like what I think should be, instead of saying like do what you love or like follow your passion, like people are already going to do that without you needing to tell them. And by comparison, like if a person feels that they're not doing that, then they're only going to feel dejected and more like a failure. So what you should essentially do is like double down on what you're good at, and conduct the rest of your life like you're fishing. Like you'll row around a pond, and this is not like my analogy, I'm stealing this from someone. Like you row around a pond catching fish here and there, and some spots have more fish than others. So and as you progress in age, you go to different spots more and more and more, and then you get better at what you are doing, and then eventually you find the good spot, and then you die.
Yeah. I mean, God, it's so easy for me to joke about dying, but it's like, and that's the other thing, is like,
that's the thing, is like, if something is so difficult that the thought of like doing it is just like that scary, or that like, and like I've thought about this myself, as like, well, if like speaking, like not so much public speaking, but like let's assume I was a litigator, which I'm not, but like, because the thought of like messing up in court like terrifies me beyond belief, then the thought is like, well, why do that? Why be a lawyer at all? And the answer is, well, I don't have to do that if I specialize in this other type of law. So it's a matter of balancing what you like, but also cutting out where you can the things that you really can't do.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, what sucks is like, I have spent my entire life dreaming like being a big Hollywood movie maker. And I get that like the odds are shit, but it's like, what I'd have to do to make that happen is the scariest thing in the world.
Mhm.
So it's so tough for me. Like, I don't have the luxury of being able to just be comfortable. Like, no matter what I do, it's going to just be anguish until I learn how to mentally be all right with wherever I'm at. And that's my goal. And, I'm hopeful is that I want to make it happy. I feel like I was very clairvoyant because that's been my motto for a long time, and I've always enjoyed it, and it's resonated with me. But now more than ever, I'm like, man, I need some piece of advice that'll make me feel better. I'm like, oh, it's like the advice that I've been giving myself forever. Wow, that's cool. And like that is one comfort that is great to know. And I mean, I'm no expert, but anyone feeling down and out, I would just recommend this as a thing to remember is that you're always going to be you. And I mean, you might hate yourself, and maybe this advice is not helpful if you do, but I feel like it's hard to hate yourself, to really hate yourself. You can be disappointed in yourself, but I feel a lot of people, when it boils down to it, you like the music you like, and I don't think there's a reason to be ashamed of that. You like the colors you like, there's not a reason to be ashamed of that. You like the numbers you like, not a reason to be ashamed of that. And it makes you unique, and it makes you you. And I feel like there's a lot about you that you do like. And a lot of shit happens in life that's unpleasant, and there's a lot of change, and there's a lot of adversity. But the one thing that'll stay the same until you die and after you die and forever is that you will be you. And no one will take that away from you. And you can kill yourself right now. Even you can't take that away from you.
Yeah.
You're always going to be you. And so if you hate yourself, maybe that'll be encouraging in a negative sense. It's like blowing your brains out isn't going to change the fact you're you. But
Yeah.
I choose to think of it more positively.
I mean, you'll have yourself and your experiences, and that's all you'll ever have in theory. So that's why you just need to find meaning in everyday things time and time again, The existentialist won that argument, I think.
I came up with something that apparently other people have come up with too. I don't know how long it's been around, but tell me if you've heard this one. The meaning of life is to give life meaning.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I've never heard it put so succinctly, but yes.
All right. Well, I was literally trying to brainstorm a while ago. What is the meaning of life? And I landed upon that. I'm like, that's so fucking smart. And then I realized that was already a thing. I'm like, God damn it.
And Camus is like, piss off.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not a philosopher, am I?
No, but I mean, you've touched upon what Camus, like his most famous quote is like, the greatest problem, and I'm butchering this to hell, like the greatest problem we face as a species is the problem of suicide. Is like,
yeah.
How can existence be so meaningless that it is better to end the only thing we've ever known rather than to keep going?
That's fucking deep. Holy cow. But
slept with a lot of women, that Frenchman. No, I don't know.
Anything else change about me besides disillusion? I think it'll get better, which is the good news. But yeah, I mean, I'm still in a rough spot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I gotta work through it.
Well, let's step back. Let's step way back.
Before we do that, I'm just making sure I covered all the bases. Right, I didn't explain my new job. I left the job that wasn't challenging me with like grand ideas of like, I'm gonna get into Hollywood. I knew it wouldn't work out right away, but I was more optimistic about it. But now that I'm back in town, we'll say, I've currently got a job I actually really enjoy. The pay is ass, which really sucks, but I like what I'm doing a lot. It's weird. I enjoy it.
Hell, I like what you do. Like,
yeah,
I would do what you do.
It's like a random movie generator.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's great, and it's technically a contractor position, and it's unknown how long it will last. But it's good for now, and it enables me to live in this area. And technically, I'm like working in LA, without having to fucking be there.
Yeah.
But
No California taxes for me.
pretty much, and so it's all right. I'm living at home, and well, part of me feels shame. I also acknowledge that I don't think there's any harm in like living at home until you have a different living situation you can live in.
Yeah, I felt bad exercising my privilege living at home while, working for a law firm, but you'd think everyone I've been with has been like, "Oh, can't believe you're like living at home and like living it big off of like your parents," and just but everyone has been really cool about it. They're like, "Oh my god, you're so lucky. Like keep that going as long as possible." Like I'm amazed like how many both friends and strangers have like had my best interests in mind when I've described my situation, and I find that really refreshing.
Yeah, and the thing that I have never looked at, but I'm looking at it now, is I always just looked at if you're living with your parents at a certain point, you're a loser, you're schmuck, and you're not
Well,
able to be independent.
maybe when you're 40 ish.
Well, I would almost argue again. Well, here's the thing: like I don't think there's anything shameful about wanting to live with people. Some people are fortunate enough where they have friends they can live with, or they have significant others they can live with, wives, husbands, you name it. Some people are fortunate enough to be loners. But I think if you don't have any of that, I don't see what's wrong with living at home. I mean, even if you can afford to move out, it's like I could be making 100,000 a year. I wouldn't want to move out
Hmm.
because I'm like, why would I want to live alone? And to me, I've always thought that it was like just all it boiled down to moving out was a mark of independence.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's just that. Like it's also
Mhm.
goddamn loneliness. Like
But that's the thing is like I'm an introvert, so I kind of value limited contact, which is weird because I also crave it, but at the same time, in terms of living space, like I kind of prefer it. Do you know what your sorry to like cut you off, but like,
oh,
do you know
that's
your
fine.
Myers Briggs personality type or no?
I don't even know that I've heard of that.
Okay, so it's like it's a
Oh no, I
you know what
have
it is,
heard of it.
yeah, with the 4 letters. It's a long test with these. I think I don't think that it's 4 answers per question. I want to say that it's like um I want to say that it's like a binary answer, but we're getting way off topic with this, but it's the questions are like it's a Saturday night. Do you A, go to a bar? Like they're really specific answers. Do you like go to a bar with really loud music, or do you stay at home and read? Like those are your options. It's like you have to pick one, and whatever you pick ends up influencing, what this test says you are personality wise. So I am an INFJ slash maybe INFT, if only because when I read the personal hells for each of the possible Myers Briggs types, the FTs fit me more, which is like everything you say and do only hurts the people you love and care about, and there's nothing you can do to stop it until like you're left all alone. I'm like, that sounds pretty bad, and probably the worst out of all the others because I read all the others.
Yikes.
I read because I read the FJs, and it's like, you work for a big corporation that is like hurting the environment, and I'm like, I am a stone's throw away from doing that for a living. So I'm like, that doesn't really bother me that much. I mean, okay, it would bother me, but it's not like hell on earth. So I don't know what I am, but I'm introverted, intuitive, feeling, and I guess judging. So
I'm a cool, fun guy.
well, that's the thing is like, forget the latter 3 letters. Would you say you're more of an E or I? E extrovert, I introvert.
I'm an extrovert without the follow through, is what I've always said. is that I am introverted until proved extroverted. Basically, what that means is I'm a goddamn coward, but also an extrovert. Like
you're the opposite of me.
I guess so.
Basically.
I listen. There are moments where I need to be alone, like when I'm writing.
Oh yeah,
I can't be distracted.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking at tomorrow night, like Saturday night, woo, which is
tomorrow night.
Oh, that's will change.
There you go.
But I'm looking at tomorrow and I'm thinking, I better fucking do something social. And it's not because I feel the social pressure to. It's like I fucking want to.
Mm-hmm.
If I could spend, oh my god, I'm like living in a dreamscape again. But like, if I could never stop hanging out with people, that'd be pretty great. I mean, I'd obviously want to like take a dump and like, do certain things. But like, an ideal life for me is a very, very social one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I could hang out with people every night, I'd be in paradise.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, like, I almost want to, like, every night be like, someone want to hang out? Someone want to hang out? Someone want to hang out? But
yeah, no. I have nights where I want that, but some are just like, nope, I'm going to stay in, gonna me time.
Which is good, because, I have a problem. Well, I don't know that it's a problem. But it's definitely a complication, like, because, availability wanes with age. It's just going to get tougher, and I'm going to get sadder unless I learn how to deal with it or make a lot more friends. If I have a pool of, like, 50 friends, maybe I'll be okay until I'm 80. Ay. That's another thing that's changed, is that I used to, like, make jokes about old people, like, ha ha ha, but now I have an awareness, like, oh, I will be old one day. And like, it's not something I ever thought about, but I'm like, I will eventually be about to die from old age. And I empathize a lot more now, because I'm like, I'm terrified of the idea of being 80 and like helpless or something like that. So, I want to go easy on the old people jokes. Not that I like am known for my abundance of elderly humor, but
sub genre.
Here's the big thing that happened to me, just to wrap up the like recent shit, is that I realized something about movies, which is crazy because I love movies. But
You have a degree in movies,
and my experience about watching movies was altered because basically I realized that good movies have conflict and negative things happening. And I feel like the reason we enjoy movies, like, I mean, I'll say Coco just as the first example that pops into my head. Like, people enjoy crying at it. They do. I mean, it's an entertaining experience. And I think it's similar to riding a roller coaster and like feeling the tickle of I might die, but you're not going to. I think we like to jump into these emotions that we don't have to commit to. And I never realized that's what I was doing with these movies. I always thought like these emotions are an important thing to experience in life. It's good to be really sad sometimes. And then I realized, oh no, it fucking sucks. The truth is it's good to like have yourself tickled by these emotions you don't have to commit to at all. Like, it's good to watch a movie and feel sad. Like, the wife and child died. Oh, that's devastating. It's not good to have your wife and child be gunned down. That's the fucking worst. And it's just not a thought that ever occurred to me. And so I was watching this movie. It's like July 22. I think it was called, just about like a terrorism act. And this was with my new mindset, and it was like really hard for me to watch because it's like just this brutal, gritty gunning down of children by a terrorist. And I'm like, I can't be tickled by this anymore because I'm like, I feel like the proper way to watch a movie like that, I mean, yes, you want to be reflective, especially when it's based on true events, but the point of a movie that is, thrilling by that nature is to dance around in that mind space but not have to commit to it. Like, I don't think the goal of the movie is to watch it and have like your entire month ruined because you're just thinking about how awful it is that people died that way. You're supposed to dance around in it, as fucking offensive as that sounds. That's the nature of movies. But I was feeling this like guilt that I was not watching the movie and prepared to be miserable and depressed for like a year or longer.
Mhm.
It's just it's a very fascinating thing to discover. So yeah, here's to being happier.
Yep.
And I guess we can open this up to the wider discussion as
Yeah.
you wanted to transition into.
Yeah. So let's take a huge step back and look at the macro and see how much we've changed. And maybe this can be hopefully more lighthearted in seeing how much we've changed since, I guess, Regents Week 2009.
Wow, I thought you were going back like as far as birth and shit.
No. Let's keep it conservative at a decade.
Our friendship, basically, when we first met.
Doesn't have to be. No, I'm still thinking like the start of high school ish. We can throw it back further, but I don't know.
What? We met in like what? Seventh grade? It's only 2 years back. What? Seventh grade was like 2006, mostly. Yeah.
05 actually.
So,
Because what, dear listeners, I found out that Drew lived in my neighborhood maybe a month into knowing him, and then I moved away 2 months later. But then he moved closer to me, so it was okay.
I'll choose to go back to seventh grade when we met.
Okay,
that's interesting.
That's actually, you know what, that actually might work out better
because we met in class.
Yeah,
and Brandan and I have a lot of friends currently that I hang out with a lot, but I've known Brandan longer than almost all of them. And
well, that's not true. A certain other friend of ours who has the same birthday as me was in the same class. But you would not count them a friend.
Intimately.
Oh, yes, intimately.
Known, yes. But
to know carnally.
Yes, exactly. Well, one day maybe we should know each other.
Yeah,
carnally.
maybe, who knows?
But honestly, the biggest change that happened to me is what I described as the disillusion, because I've always been very positive about things just working out, and my world has been shattered by realizing oh shit, I'm gonna have to deal with depression.
Mm-hmm.
That's awful. It's just not something I lived a very fortunate life. I mean, yeah, it was not perfect. I was lonely, and certain things did improve. I feel like in middle school, I definitely had friends. I had you. I had people like Dan.
Yeah.
I felt comfortable, but I would look at more popular people and think I want to be the kind of person that throws parties and has a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
And just today,
see, here's where we come back into the extrovert introvert disconnect. Is I was never about that scene. I just wanted a few people to hang out with occasionally. I didn't care that I wasn't invited to parties or something.
Oh, I wanted to be the person throwing the parties.
I wanted a good group of friends and a girlfriend. And I have that now, but I didn't then.
Oh, you had a good group of friends, I'd say. You had me and John.
Well, yeah, I mean, and yeah, we did hang out, and so yeah,
but it's crazy because I would always want to be that kind of person, but never thought I would be.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at recent years, and I literally I guess yesterday at this point, I put out an invite for a party with a bunch of people. No, it's not 50 people, but I'm I have become the guy that does that.
Yeah.
And I did have moments where I never thought that I would be exceptionally well liked. But there are instances like Drama Club, as we referenced a lot earlier, where I suddenly felt wow, people care about me. And in a certain respect, it's kind of been a rise and fall. Because as I also mentioned earlier, I was looking at earlier Facebook posts from 2009, and I was seeing a lot of people being very complimentary toward me, like, Drew, you amaze me, or Drew, you're so cool. And I think of how often that happens now, and I'm like, oh, 0 times. Like, I literally, you could put a gun to my head and be like, I will shoot you unless you could think of the last time someone complimented you on the internet. I'm like, can I make a phone call before I die? Like,
well, then reference the tweet I made the other day.
Which tweet?
I tweeted at something I forget. But I did try to extend a compliment.
I appreciate. I might not have even seen it.
Yeah.
Which sucks because I'm not like as active on Twitter as I could be. But I tweet more. But I don't.
You tweet more than me, I think.
I don't look at my homepage as much as I could. So yeah, it's definitely been a rise and fall, but I think just compared to this starting point that I've picked, it's better. I mean, if I wind up moving to LA in 3 months, which I don't think it'll happen that soon, I will really be at a very, 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 very low point. But right now in this area, I have a good chunk of friends. It's not the same as when you're in school, but it's just a lot easier to have a bunch of friends in school. But hopefully it could get even better. I could make even more friends. Fingers crossed that I could overcome that adversity. But it's really cool because listen, I'm not that much better socially. I still have horrific anxiety about asking people out. I am terrified of the failure of a girl saying, actually, I'm not attracted to you. And it's tough to meet people. But it seems like it is possible for me to be successful because I have the friends I have right now. And yeah, most of them are from high school, and it's very easy to become friends with people in high school. But I have hope that, it can get better in terms of that. So I think that's a net improvement. I mean, what about you socially, I guess? How have you been?
Oh, boy. Since from middle school to, I don't know, 2015 maybe, like maybe 2014. Yeah, I'd say let's say early 2014 as like a good is when things finally started to pick up for me socially. And that like
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Do you have to
go
handle?
My dad needs me.
Okay. Well,
so
cool. Take your
we
time.
are now going to.
Should I stop?
No. Brandon.
We'll just edit out.
It's gonna be the Brandan show for a little bit. I just.
Oh jeez.
Don't continue the conversation.
I'm not gonna continue the conversation. I can't believe he would even do something. Listeners, I didn't plan for this. Well, like we were talking about before, like how something is really unexpected and then it's going to happen to me and then I have to make deal with what it is. Like if this was maybe a couple years ago, maybe this would be pretty bad. But I think on the whole, like I can, keep this going on. So yeah, here we are, And that's the thing too, given the circumstances of this, like, I've known Drew's dad for years. I know he's in a pretty bad situation right now, but so yeah, I'm not even miffed that he has to go take care of whatever's going on because I know it's more worth it that he does that than like spend time chit chatting with me and blowing it off. Honestly, yeah, I'm gonna have a little more champagne if you'll excuse me for a second. You know what I can do? I really like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and, a bunch of old dancers. The Nichols brothers, they're also a really good example. And my sisters, they danced. They've, done ballet before. But what I really like are tap dancers. They never did. My one sister did do a bit of tap dancing, but she ultimately elected for ballet and point. But I like a good tap dance routine. I love the sound of the dance that hits the floor and the choreography and everything. But I was always very envious that I could never do it myself. But I did pick up a trick from Billy Crystal when I watched a segment with him from the 1980 I want to say the '88 Oscars. He couldn't tap dance either, so he decided to take care of it his own way. So this is a way you can tap dance without having to do anything. And as Drew's coming back in, I'll handle it myself. Hold on, Drew. Da 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 da
What the?
da 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 da. There, that's how you tap dance without tap dancing.
What are you chewing?
Icebreakers.
My God, I thought you were gonna like bring out your champagne glass. Like what the fuck? But all right, I am sorry to interrupt. My dad's covers were askew. It's tough. But anyway, let's jump into you. You were talking about how you've changed socially over the years.
Right. So looking back, like I could tolerate senior year of high school me and college me to an extent. I'd look back on like old Facebook posts and all I see is just ignorance and stupidity and like just not caring about consequences. And I hate that because I'm so consequence focused now.
Yeah.
Like I still do things that I regret, don't get me wrong, but like I can at least see the impact that they might have and try to like maybe at least do damage control as a result. Old me couldn't care less. So he would say things and do things that would, for very good reason, like put people off. And as soon as, and if that was someone's first or second or third or fourth impression of a person, like that can turn off a person like that. And then, then I'm left sort of into this catch-22 is like, I want to hang out with people. People don't like the things that I do. It's like, oh, well, I guess I'll be alone forever then. Or like try to find those that can at least tolerate it. So, I was very bad with girls. I think I still am. But there was still that drive to crave companionship, but I never knew how to do it in a way that was, I guess, normal. And that might be owed to a variety of factors, including maybe I have some kind of like autism related thing that makes me like unaware of like how people would react or feel to like certain things. I don't want to say that I have that because I have no diagnosis one way or the other, but I will admit it is a possibility. And for someone who's not neurotypical, that can come across pretty jarring growing up and doing that. And now granted, I've also done things socially that were not like a product of that. Things that I clearly should have known were wrong usually to say to people that I said like in high school that for better, not for better or for worse, but for worse, pretty much destroyed friendships. And, I sincerely regret that. I regret friendships that have gone by the wayside. I've regretted things that would have been, again, going back to I had no agency in them ending. I had agency in causing them to be ending, but I had no desire for them to end. And, that still is the same today. Like if someone unfriends me on Facebook when I think we're cool, and I try to refriend them and they reject me, it's like, well, what happened? I'm always left guessing at like what I did. And I'm like, I must have done something. And so that can be hard to deal with. But I've also seen, as I've gotten older, like, yes, I've made some very, very, very hurtful statements to people or actions. I don't want to discount anything. But sometimes things that I interpret as severe or maybe the other person perceives as severe, an objective third party will look at it and say, yeah, that wasn't the best thing that could have been done, but, it shouldn't like ruin your relationship with them. It might put a damper on it, but not like ruin entirely. But people who still wish to grouse about that, I've come to just realize like, oh, sometimes I'm not the problem. And that is a tremendous sense of relief.
Yeah.
Because I've felt like the problem since, I don't know, 2005.
Wow.
Pretty much for over almost a decade and a half, I felt like 100% of it has been my fault, when really it's more like at least 50. So yeah, I don't know what to make of that. And yeah, you talked about being respected in drama club. This is going to be awkward if people listen to this. I never felt that respected, maybe by some of the younger students, like as we got older, but maybe not until like recently have I like had more interactions with like the upperclassmen that have been more positive. And maybe that's just because rehearsal schedules have always been wacky. And if, you know, I wasn't really part of the teenage drinking scene, so I understand that that was happening outside of like my social sphere. So maybe I wasn't a part of that either. But I've connected with people who I knew both before and during that, and it's been on the whole pretty positive. So I'm happy where I am with some of the relationships there now, but I also realize that some of those relationships like were either never meant to be, and that's okay. Like it's okay to not be friends with everyone, even though I want to. Like I really want to, just because I like belongingness and the kind of what the Greeks would call philia, which is the love of friends, not romantic love like eros or the divine love agape, but I really do love and value philia, which is again doubly bad because when I do not obey the rules of philia, which is, you know, to like love thy neighbor as thyself and like treat others the way you want to be treated, it makes it all the more ironic that, okay, sometimes it does fall by the wayside and I should have been a better person about it. But yeah, I'll admit like maybe some of the blame should be cast my way in terms of things. Man, drama club is a weird time for me and for a lot of reasons. Which is why I tried to fill it with as much homework as I could.
Wow. I guess I just assumed it was happy for everyone I knew. But...
It was happy because, I loved the people we worked with. Everyone I worked with, like, I think brought something great to the table. And, you know, I loved our director. I loved the other teachers who worked on the productions. I loved doing shows. And that's the other thing too, is like I only got into drama club because a much older mutual friend of ours did it when I was in elementary school to middle school. And like I had no extracurricular, so my mom basically pushed me into it. And thank God she did, because I ended up, you know, really liking it. And I've loved being able to express myself as an actor, as a vocalist. Well, I got it. I was in choir before I was in or chorus before I was in drama club, and that was only because I had a crush on someone who wanted to do it. That's the only reason why. If they didn't do it and I didn't have a crush on them, I don't think I would have joined chorus as early as I did, which would have been 4th grade elementary school.
Well, you know who got me into drama club? You.
I was gonna say, well, it probably was me.
You were in some dumbass show about meatballs.
There was only one meatball that was important, and it was poisoned.
Oh my God, that's right. That's what it was titled.
Yeah.
But basically...
Did you see that show? Or you just heard about it? Yeah.
No, I didn't.
You heard about it every time it came on the PA.
I knew you... Yeah. Basically, it comes back to me being a goddamn horrific coward. I would not have auditioned for it had I not had a friend that was also there. So you were my in. This is a problem I hope to fix one day. And coincidentally, I was probably going to go to the stand-up place without you. but
Maybe I should invite him too.
well, I was gonna I was gonna go alone, but then I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, why go alone if other people might want to join me? And
Certainly ones who have been comics, you know?
yeah, so I thought of you. But yes, coincidentally, that does kind of come off as like I need my buddy. And yes, I mean, I'm still that. Brandon, we've discussed how there are two things in life that terrify me. I'm pretty confident bold
And
person.
one is nuclear war.
No, karaoke and asking out women. It is those two things.
And when they are
specifically.
combined, oh boy.
Oh my god, that is awkward. But like, I had an opportunity recently, or I maybe could have made a move, and that did not.
Mm-hmm.
How this is not related though. We were talking about fucking
Drama club.
not even just that. Like in terms of the broader scope, just you fitting in.
Yeah.
And I mean,
I will say this. The first show I did was actually technically summer. It was like a 2-week summer program, I want to say, with some of the people who would eventually be in drama club, but this was in, I want to say, 4th grade. We went out to, as we do, we went out to like friendlies after the closing performance. Never have I had up until that point like as much fun with like just a group of guys as I did at that booth at that friendlies table. With I think after that, like I knew one of the folks at the booth, and I never saw the other guys ever again.
wow.
But that's how fun it was. And then pretty much every theater experience afterwards has been like that.
Well, Brandon, I think part of our friendship and part of the reason we get along is defined by the fact that we are slightly misfits, but I also think that we're pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm biased, but
Man, we are cool.
yeah. How other changes though? Just one thing I'm happy that didn't change with me is
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about things we're glad have stayed the same.
well, I don't think my creative drive is ever dissipated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think it's strengthened either. I think I have always had the same calling. And it's really great because I can watch things that I made 12 years ago and I can see like, oh, you know, I should have known how to do this better. And, you know, if I had the equipment, I could have pulled this off. But I'm still proud of what I was going for. And like, it's really cool because I know some artists that will look back on things they did even 6 months ago and be like, oh, God, I don't like it anymore. But
I hate that, you know?
well, I hate it too, but I get it. Like, I can get how people are in that mindset.
Yeah,
And
oh, yeah, I can get it too.
I've just been fortunate enough where I haven't changed that much. I've had the same kind of drive, the same kind of style, so I can look back at like everything I've tried and feel proud because I see what I wanted to do in me that's been there the whole time, and it just that kind of consistency is really exciting and just defining, and I love it. And despite my recent crisis, I feel like I've always really been, I don't want to say positive is the right word, but maybe filled with the spirit of happiness. I've been a spirited person, I guess. And I don't think that's really changed too much either. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I've definitely always been cynical, but I feel like it's very easy transitioning from youth to older age to kind of lose some of that spark. And as of right now, I still feel like I'm like, yeah. And I'm very happy about this. Like the favorite parts of myself I haven't lost yet.
Hmm.
And that's really comforting. Physically, I'm a big guy now, and I don't hate the way I look, honestly, but I acknowledge I would prefer to look the way that I did as
Oh,
a youth.
so would I.
Yeah, and
So would I.
I social circumstances, as we discussed, are just easier in school, and I want
Hmm.
them to be as I like to feel as social as I was in school,
Hmm.
but just I guess purely in terms of personality traits, I've held on to things like that and I've been really happy about it. But I also feel like I've always been a thoughtful person and I do think I keep discovering things about how to live life better. And I do feel like I've had continuous growth just in terms of being a better person.
Hmm.
Like I don't feel I've ever stopped thinking, how can I be better and trying to implement it? And I'm really thankful for that too. Just the ability to constantly improve upon myself.
Hmm.
And I mean, yeah, there have been, I guess, among things that I've improved, I think I have been a lot more selfish, which is, it all ties back to me wanting to be as happy as possible. Like, I don't want to do this thing for someone else that'll make me a little inconvenienced. I've gotten a lot better at handling that. I've become more respectful. I've become less of an asshole. There's still work to be done, but I really feel like, if anything, I might be close to shutting out the asshole part of me. Not ever completely, because
Hmm.
I will maybe never stop loving shitting on bad movies, and there is something inherently mean about that, because, someone made the movie. Um, but, uh, for as much as I don't like the hand I've been dealt necessarily, I I'm fortunate enough where I really like who I am and I like how it's been consistent and I like feeling like I'll always be that way. That's really cool to me because
Hmm.
I'm someone that resents change anyway, so that it's helpful.
Hmm.
But yeah, I guess overall it's like bittersweet. I'm not happy with where am I where I'm at, but I'm happy with who I'm at.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Well, something I'm glad stayed the same is even if maybe in the twilight years of law school, uh, basically for my last two classes that I had, like, yeah, I learned new things like for the exam and for the project and things like that, but and I retained it, but I think if I had to do like one more class, like I straight up wouldn't have cared. So like I've always fancied myself a Renaissance person, very passionate about a bunch of different disciplines and being skilled to some extent in all of them. That if part of that stopped after college, because then you pretty much do one thing. Um, but even after law school, I'm glad. Like today, for instance, at work, I wasn't doing a lot, so I went to the news. I looked what was pending with some things with the Supreme Court. I looked at why certain legal things were the way they were, like because I want to know more about yes my field, but I also like did some random. I've done random searches like about other things as well, just because I want to know why things are the way they are. Like if I don't know why someone is behaving a certain way, uh, their behavior may not be bad. It may sound like I'm being critical of it, but it's really just an understanding. Like I hate not knowing things. I hate not knowing, well, certainly what's going to come, but also the rationale behind things that I personally see as critically absurd. Part of that comes with, like, if I feel I'm in the right and I feel people have either shunned me or like shut me out or explained that I've been in the wrong, like, I want to know why. Maybe they're justified. In fact, they probably are justified. But I still need to, not want, but need to know why. And I don't know if the need comes from just a lust for knowledge and for rationale and reason and logic, much of which has dictated my profession and just the way I've approached academia in general, or it's like, let me know so that I can make myself better so that this doesn't happen ever, 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 ever again.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well, it's like wanting to avoid the unhappiness that comes from being in a situation like that. Right?
Well, the other thing is like, if I really want something, and it is also rationally attainable, not like, oh, I'd really love to win the Powerball, so I bought every ticket.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like if I have a goal that is achievable, ever since, middle school, I think I haven't achieved every goal I've set, but I've achieved certain ones, and I'm proud that I have gone out and like achieved things that I really want.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing to think about, actually. Real quick, I've been extremely paranoid this whole time. Are we even recording?
Yes.
Oh my god!
The things are. It has the red
Your
circle.
fucking pause made me think we weren't. You like stared at it for 1 second without acknowledging anything. I'm like, oh god! But all right, good. I think it's interesting thinking about, because I feel like we're mostly coming to a close about,
Yeah.
But one thing that I found interesting is I think we had a thing that we did in 8th grade where we kind of wrote a message to our senior year selves in high school.
It was 7th or 8th grade, and I got that. We got something at the end of high school, but then I also feel like I got something like when I was in college. Like somehow it got sent to the mail, and you know what? Okay. So we got middle school to end of high school. We also got I want to say, I think it was like freshman year of college orientation thing, whatever, sent to us at the end of freshman year or like graduation. I think it must have been before graduation, because I looked at that and I'm like, oh, I have some bad news for you, son, based on the things that I said. But anyway, yeah, you were talking about the one we sent in middle school to self.
Yeah, the one...
I do remember that.
And this is like the thing about consistency, and it stays true with my sense of humor. I mean, I've certainly developed it and made it better, but the things that I found funny are still the same. And one thing I wrote in 8th grade to myself that I laughed at when I was reading it in 12th grade is, "You better be on your way to college or you're a huge disappointment." And like,
good thing you were, I guess.
Well, that's the thing, is like, I wasn't being serious in 8th grade. I was in on the joke that like I was exaggerating.
Oh, me.
And I was like so amused by that I'm like, man, it's so cool that like,
that's the thing.
Me and 8th grade Drew could bond over jokes.
Oh yeah, like, I mean, I have no record. I mean, I know what I said / did pre-Facebook. I've only been on Facebook since fall of 2009. So the only record I have of my behavior is that. But if I look back at old posts, even posts from like the recent past, like a year ago, like sometimes I amuse myself like, that was good. That was some good wit past me. I'm actually surprised you were able to pull that off, because I generally think I'm not that funny or talented. So,
well, I think a good final prompt to explore this topic is I'm sure that for both of us, 7th grade us had a vision of where we would be when we were 25.
Oh, Jesus.
And how, I mean, obviously, perspective changes when you get older and you realize, exactly what it takes to accomplish things. But I can tell you this much. I imagine that I felt at 25. Here's things I wasn't going to think about. I'd have to leave my family. At the time, I didn't even have a big group of friends, but if I did, I'd have to leave them. But I was probably thinking it'd work out and it'd be fine. And I would be off in some place. I probably didn't even think about it that much. I really wasn't even thinking of a timeline. In 7th grade, I was more thinking eventually this will be you. And I probably wasn't thinking specifically what would I be doing at 25. But I think my closest approximation of what I felt I would be doing is I would probably be in a big city like LA and doing something close, being at some point on the ladder. And, well, the one thing I obviously perspective changes, as I've said, but one thing I am very proud of is that I have not stopped creating. I mean, even right now, easy and painless as this might be, this is an instance of us creating.
This is creation.
Yeah, and that's really motivating to know that, I haven't given up. I don't want to after all these years. And I hope that always stays the same. I do. But I think I don't think in 7th grade I would have thought about retaining the same personality I had, but I am glad that I did for the most part. And am I as hot as I thought I would be? No. Am I as romantically involved as I hoped I'd be? No. Did I ever think my dad would get ALS? Absolutely not. That's just a weird thing to have happen. But, we're still friends, and that is so fucking cool.
Which is a testament. If I were to tell October, November-ish me of 2005 that you'd give up on your dreams of being president come this next presidential election, tell him what his job would be. I don't think he'd be offended or confused. He'd be more like, how the hell did you pull that off? How did you manage to land that? Didn't you need to do excellent? He didn't know what a major was. He didn't know what he'd be studying. I think he would have assumed political science. I don't think he would have thought history, philosophy minor, what I ended up doing. What else? I don't think he even... If you asked him what he would do as 25, I don't think he'd crunched the numbers just yet. It's okay, out of college at 22, potentially law school was even then kind of on the brain. So okay, let's add 3 more years to that, He also never would have thought that this weird guy who's going on about the Paiute would be his best friend a decade down the line. He'd be like, what? You're fucking with me.
That's so cool.
You're straight up fucking with me. That's ridiculous. I've known John since elementary school. Clearly he will be a good friend forever.
Because I knew John about as long as I knew you.
Yeah. Well,
which is really interesting. I never
came to the same class.
Yeah. But that's because technically you and John went back much further. I was
much further. I mean, I don't know. 4 years at the most.
I was a third wheel for a little bit, though. I was the new guy.
Yeah. I was the new guy.
And now it's us. And John's I miss John. God.
I miss John, too.
We'll see. We want to go to Minneapolis, right?
Drew, that's a 5-hour drive at least from Chicago.
But closer than the drive from fucking New York. Like,
yes. Yep.
Chicago is further from us than Minneapolis, right? Yeah. But it's not. It's closer.
You clearly haven't looked at a map of the United States
I
in a
have.
while,
Illinois
have you?
is part of Mimmel, right?
No.
Oh my god.
Minnesota is.
Well, what's the I in Mimmel?
Iowa.
Oh, that's fucking gross. Illinois is. It's a lot closer, isn't it?
Now, granted, I mean, Iowa borders Illinois. So does Missouri and Wisconsin.
How far away is it to get to Chicago if we wanted to right now? By car?
By car? 18 hours-ish.
Oh. We'll see him again somehow, damn it.
18 hours, or if you prefer, an hour and a half-ish flight.
I miss that fucker. But yeah, no, I absolutely share your sentiment. I mean, I've always been of the mindset, I want nothing to end. So it's a fucking dream come true that I could be really close to you and our friendship doesn't have to end. Like, I mean, there are other people I knew in the... Like,
until I slip you this cyanide.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But, there's people like Mike who I really enjoyed the company of a lot, but, we have drifted and... He's a great guy. He would probably talk to me in a heartbeat.
You knew him through orchestra, right? Right?
Nah.
Oh, okay.
We just met in class.
Oh.
Honestly. He was in band, if anything.
Oh, okay. My bad.
But it's heartbreaking because I don't like it when things end. But for now, Brandon and I are still going strong. Will Brandon maybe eventually move to Chicago or something? I mean,
oh God, I hope not. I'd have to be licensed in Illinois.
I was gonna say if he goes anywhere outside of the state, I'll have to do a new license, which is a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing is, if I move to Illinois right now, I can. I would. I'd run into trouble after 2021, basically, because Illinois is part of this consortium of states that can honor scores from exams or whatever for 3 years. So after 2021, then I might run into some trouble. Then I would have to take another exam again. And I don't want to do that ever again.
Nope. I don't blame you.
Yeah.
But I guess in some ways we've changed, in some we haven't, but
we're still trying.
We are, and I think we're both happy to be ourselves and happy to be with each other. Yeah. And that is a pretty happy thing.
And this podcast made me realize that more so.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I hope we keep having adventures. Listen, I've been over how I have all these depressive instincts, and I'm like, what if we drift apart, or Brandon gets married and has kids and we don't see each other for 5 months, and what if everything's sad, and then what if I die in a car crash? And yes, there are a lot of ways this friendship can be challenged, and I am terrified of it because right now it's not as easy as it was in school, but it's still pretty easy. And if I can see you once a week easily. And I couldn't even do that when we started this podcast, really. At a certain point, you went to college, and then I'm I gotta wait a couple months. But, make it happy. And it'll be fine. Fuck it. Yeah. Fuck it. Just sometimes you just gotta whistle while you dork.
Yeah. But there is only one way to end this podcast.
Yeah.
And that is with a fuck yeah this week.
Come on and gather round and come on and gather round and come on and gather round and start the fuck yeah this week. Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You don't want to do that in the next episode?
Nope.
Come on and gather round and come on and gather round and come on and gather round and start the fuck yeah this week. Yes.
You don't think it should be the very, very last thing we do?
I don't think so. I think it should be totally that the next part should be totally independent of everything.
Yeah, that's fair.
Come on and gather round and come on and gather round and come on and gather round and start the book yeah this week. Yes.
All right. Fuck yeah this week.
Come on and gather round and come on and gather round and come on and gather round and start the book yeah this week. Yes.
All right.
We've had a lot of great experiences with the Fuck yeah this week theme
Gotta go
song.
out strong.
Yeah.
Come on and gather round and come on and gather round and come on and gather round and start the book yeah this week. Yes.
So let's just give a nice shout out to the Fuck yeah this week theme song.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. All
Yeah.
right.
Yay us.
Honestly, my Fuck yeah this week is probably gonna be a bit hacky.
Hacky's
But
good.
my Fuck yeah this week is that we have concluded a great podcast.
Okay.
No, like,
It's a little meta, but I can get
but no,
behind it.
that genuinely, like, when I'm thinking of my week, I'm like, that's so, like, I look at it from it's concluding another project,
Mhm.
like, that's been going on for years, and being able to say, like, we finished it.
Mhm.
That's great. And if you have any Fuck yeah this week that's different from that, then I'm gonna have to change mine.
Because it'd be create an imbalance. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint
Yes.
you, but there's going to be an imbalance.
Well, then at least say, like, hey, I'm Brandan, and this podcast is good.
Hey, I'm Brandan. This podcast is good.
That was your impression of my impression of you. That was amazing.
It's so meta.
It really is. All right. Real Fuck yeah this week, then.
My real fuck yeah this week. So you and I shared a unique experience in drama club where for fall of sophomore year we neither worked on a show nor were we in a show. We existed in the ether known as the understudy world, wherein we did actually have things to do. Where if one of our friends was out or absent or sick or whatever, we would fill in for them. I don't know about you, but I never memorized the other person's lines. So if I actually had to fulfill my role as an understudy, like don the costume and everything, I think it would have gone catastrophically.
I did. I mean, you know me. I have like only two notable skills, and one is memorizing things
links.
absurdly well.
I mean, I do that too, but like I have to try.
Yeah.
So that particular play was Pride and Prejudice, and that had a character in it that I believe you understudied for, named Mr. Wickham.
Yes.
Yes. So flash forward to a decade later, and I'm at my office has a weekly meeting every Monday. And at those meetings, we usually discuss like attorneys from like the other offices who might be coming in to like work on a case with someone or whatever. And so my boss starts off, and then we work our way around the room. And one of the attorneys says, yeah, so-and-so, something, what's his last name? I think is Wickham. I think he's coming into the office this week. And then my boss just goes, Mr. Wickham. I was like, did no one get that reference? And I raise my hand sharply, and I'd be like, I got the reference. I understood that reference. I understood what you're talking about. And none of the other attorneys got it.
Hey, you're moving up in the world.
So my boss and me got the Pride and Prejudice reference, which, to the best of my knowledge, that attorney's last name was not Wickham. I think it was like W something, but either that just makes it even more funny.
Well, saying W actually relates to my Fuck yeah this week.
Oh, yeah.
Just as it's not my hacky Fuck yeah this week, but an actual legit Fuck yeah this week. And I think it truly fits the Fuck yeah this week mold. Because I have a job that essentially involves going through a lot of random movies and doing some research on them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the movies I wound up researching was Nixon. Now, I knew there was a movie called Frost Nixon.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize there was just a movie called Nixon, and it was by the guy that did JFK, as I learned.
Oh, okay.
And that guy also did the movie W. And yeah, upon researching it, I basically learned, oh, this guy did 3 presidential movies. Huh. Okay. I feel like you might know where this is going.
Well, I know it's Oliver Stone.
Yes. Okay. I don't think you do then.
Okay.
But basically, I was watching Jeopardy, and
Okay.
and they had a final question, and the category was U.S. presidents in movies.
Okay.
And you can probably guess where this is going. The question was basically, so Oliver Stone directed. God, I don't remember how the question was phrased, but essentially it was asking, he directed Nixon. What were the other 2 presidential movies that he directed?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, literally today I learned this.
That's, yeah.
And it was so cool to just, I like wished I had been on Jeopardy, of which my score would be fucking like 200, but I'd be like, oh shit, I'm gonna get 400 because I would wage it all.
Man, I never talked about it on this podcast, but like I auditioned for Jeopardy, and nothing could prepare you for like holding that signaling device and like needing to go like next question, because you need to keep it moving, so it makes for good television. And oh boy, like
I see people on Jeopardy struggling to just hit it.
Well, they really do make, in recent times, they've really like had to press down hard on it just to like make it light up. And like, I guess I handled mine wrong. It was a whole thing.
Wow.
The ironic thing is I was asked to be on the show, but I had to turn down for a stupid reason.
For Whistle Dork.
Yeah, yes. It was for the...
Sorry, Jeopardy. I've got a podcast.